I'm going to get so good at public speaking during my time here. And so forgive me if I'm a bit nervous. This is like the first amazing lecture that we'll have here. So, okay, so I am really excited to introduce Rashaad Newsome. We met in New York apparently a few times. We have a mutual really good friend called Amanda Hunt, who is amazing, and at some point I'm going to bring her here also. She used to be a curator at the Studio Museum, and so we also know each other from there. Also another story is that I went with Amanda to Rashaad's voguing competition in New York, and it was a unbelievable night. So hopefully you'll talk a little bit about that, but maybe another time. Okay. So I'm just going to read a little bit from Rashaad's bio. So here we go. Rashaad Newsome is a multidisciplinary artist whose work blends several practices together, including collage, sculpture, video, music, and computer programming and performance, to form an altogether new field. Best known for his visually stunning collages housed in custom frames, Newsome's work is deeply invested in how images used in media and popular culture communicate distorted notions of power. Using the equalizing force of sampling, his craft compositions that surprise in their associative potential and walk the tightrope between intersectionality, social practice, and abstraction. Newsome's works oppose cultural essentialisms. They lead us into a realm of uncertainty in which the symbols presented transform but are also made tangible. Newsome lives and works in New York City. He was born in New Orleans. I won't say when. You say it in your bio, but I'll respect that. He has exhibited and performed in galleries, museums, and festivals around the world, including, just to name a few, the Studio Museum in Harlem, New York, the National Museum of African American History and Culture in DC, the Whitney Museum in New York, the Brooklyn Museum, MoMA PS1 in New York, SF MoMA, New Orleans Museum of Art, and the Pompidou in Paris. In 2010, he participated in the Whitney Biennial, and in 2000, well, in New York, as you should all know that, but in 2011, the Greater New York show at MoMA PS1. He has many honors and awards, which include the 2017 Rush Arts Gold Rush Award, is that how you say it? Yeah, in 2014, he participated in the Headlands Artist Residency, and in 2011, Newsome received the Tiffany Foundation Award, and that's just to name a very small amount of amazing achievements. So please join me in welcoming Rashaad Newsome.
Hello, thank you all for coming out, and thank you, Danielle, for organizing such a lovely talk. So yeah, let's get to it. I will start with a project that I'm working on now, and I'll talk a little bit about how it came to be. That project is called Five, which started with two videos, one called Untitled and Untitled New Way. Those videos also, can I please get some water? Yeah, thank you. Those videos were really the beginnings of my work with and about the New York Vogue community. And it was sort of born out of this whole feeling of just discontent with what I was seeing in the world, documenting that performance practice, film-wise, and et cetera. And so I felt this sort of responsibility to kind of take the wheel on that. And so I made these videos. The videos were for me, they function in a lot of different ways. They are drawings. They can be seen as documentation. They can be seen as video pieces themselves, but also as a formal archive of at the time what was really a dying performance practice. This is a clip from one of those. And so this is an older style of voguing. Although it's one of the oldest styles, it is called New Way. And so I started with that. And the way the videos were created was I went into the community and sought out dancers who were really proficient in those particular styles of Vogue, and then had them come into the studio and perform freestyle. And then from that material, I cut together the video, but then took away the sound to kind of divorce it from any sort of specificity, and just kind of presented it as this just quiet moment with the dancer. This is another one. And this style is Vogue Femme. This would be the most current style of Vogue Femme performance. And within Vogue Femme, there are various styles as well. And so after showing those videos, at the time, I was working on a project, Shade Compositions, which I will be performing at the DIA on, next Saturday in the DFT Theater. And in that performance, I utilize gaming technology to abstract sound and visuals in real time, and more specifically, the Nintendo Wii. And so I had really become just really fascinated with using gaming technology in the performances, and there was a lab, which I can't remember the name of the lab, but I think they were out of San Francisco, and they wrote code for a tagger who had fell from a building, and he was paralyzed, and so they wrote a program for him and built some hardware into some glasses that would track the color of his eyes. And so what it allowed him to do was, put these glasses on and move his eyes around, and then they would have, that projected onto a building. So it would sort of allow him to tag again. And so it was an open source patch. And so I used that and kind of built on it. The original program I wrote was using a video camera. And so I was tracking dancers' movements as they performed frame by frame. And I was using specific colors on their body as a way to track the movements. Later, the Kinect camera came out, which really kind of allowed me to kind of take the project to the next level, because that camera has a 3D chip in it, and it also recognizes the human form. So I was able to get a much more true tracking of the dancer's movements, and also focus on a specific part of the body that was most dedicated to that particular dance. And so the performance was also a way, I was thinking a lot about the context in which I was showing that work. And I felt that there needed to be a bit of education, because most people's understanding of Vogue kind of really started and ended with the movie Paris is Burning, which is a very dated idea of what the practice is. And so I felt like I wanted to use the performance initially as a way to kind of educate about where that practice is now. And so the performance is called Five. It consists, and Five is, it's called Five because there are 5 structural components that make up the dance form Vogue, which are hand performance, catwalk, floor performance, spin dips, and duck walking. And so I worked with 5 performers and choreographed a movement, a composition based solely on that particular element. And then in parallel, I worked with 5 musicians and came up with a score based on a beat that was on a 4. And so I'm working with everybody separately, and everything comes together seamlessly through the rhythmic structure, sort of building on John Cage and Merce Cunningham's ideas of chance performance. And but a bit different, because there is a little bit of a safety net for the musicians in that, they hear the beat on the floor. Basically, their job in the performance is to transform what the dancers are doing physically into something sonically. However, they don't meet the dancers until the night of, and the dancers dance very fast. So it's quite hard for a musician to follow those movements and catch them all. And so first we come up with a melody that's sort of like their kind of safety net, and then they kind of build off of that in the live performance. And then as a way to sort of play with so-called high and low, I work with two vocalists. One is an opera singer, and another is Kevin Jay-Z Prodigy, who is a Vogue commentator, and we've been working together for, I guess, well over 10 years now. And so all of these people I work with separately on this rhythmic structure, and then that is sort of the glue that binds everything on the night of. And so using the program I wrote during all of this, when all of this is happening, I'm tracking parts of the dancer's body as they enter the floor. And on the screen above the dancer, you see the rendering of the forms that they're creating. So in a way, it kind of took what I was doing with the video. Like I said before, I saw the videos as drawings, where the dancer is sort of acting as the pen. And so by moving it into this performance using motion tracking, you can actually see the line that the dancer is creating. And so last summer, I did a residency at Tamarind Art Institute. It's a great lithograph facility in New Mexico. So those of you that are interested in that should definitely check it out. And while I was there, it allowed me to produce some prints. And so the approach I took was I wanted those prints to be located within the formal tradition of lithography, but also kind of take it somewhere else. And because the forms that are generated from my performance are, the 3D data, so I can pull an image from that, but then also because it's 3D data, I could 3D print it, and then have elements of that 3D print applied to the actual lithograph. And so these are those. This is from my 5 performance from 2013 at 2016 at SF MoMA. So this one is hand performance. There's a detail. Catwalk. Floor performance. Spin dips. And duck walking. And so here I'll show you a bit of the film as well.
Jump out the what yeah, jump out the what serve, jump out of it like yeah, give it to me, yes you got the nerve, yeah, jump out the box like a jack in the box, now I'm the bitch that can't be stopped, now I'm the register, you listen to me, I got so many tricks up my sleeve, are you ready, are you ready, are you ready for me, now get down, jam it for me, now I got something new for you, my magic trick, gonna come through, now show me, now show me your magic trick, now show me, now show me your magic trick, now show me your magic, show me your magic, show me your magic trick, yeah, show me your magic, show me your magic, show me your magic trick, yeah, show me your magic, 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 magic, magic. cunty as can be. Just call me that pussy, pink pussy, vaginal secretion. My titties sexy, so kiss them. I'm so cunty as can be. Just call me the pussy. I see a girl looking right at me. I see a girl looking right at me. Yes, looking right at me. Yes, something right at me. I see a girl looking right at me. Yes, jumping on the floor right at me. Yes, looking right at me. Yes, something right at me. Yes, at me, bitch. What? So that bitch. That bitch. What? Oh! Meow. 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 What's here? Pussy. What's new? Pussy. What's new, Miss Pussy? Meow. Cut. Meow. Oh. Meow. 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 Oh. Meow. 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 Oh. Pussy, darling. Pussy. 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 Oh. Do you understand? Do you get the meaning? Do you understand? Can you tell me a story? Do you understand? Can you give it to me? Do you understand? Do you wonder? Do you get it? Wow. Do you wonder? Yes. Listen now. What? Do you wonder? What? Do you wonder? God. Do you wonder? Do you wonder? What? Do you wonder? Lights off, lights on, serve it and give me more. Pardon me, Your Honor, please, I have to testify. The images in here just like to roll down and get higher. Please understand and hear me clear. I tell you she's the best. The procedure, the dramatic bitch. Oh, you'll know, yes, my breath. What? Dip, 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 tap, 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 tap. What? Rat, tat, 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 yes. What? Dip, 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 rat, rat, tat, 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 yeah. What? Rat, kitty, kitty, cat, rat, kitty, kitty, cat, rat, kitty, kitty, cat, yeah, bitch. Rat, kitty, kitty, cat, yeah, bitch. Rat, kitty, kitty, cat, yeah, bitch. Kitty, 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 cat, yeah, bitch. Cat, ow, oh, yeah, yeah, oh. Yes, yeah, you want life. What you want when you give it to you serve life. Now yes, what you want when you need life. When you serve life, or and you breathe life. Now yes, what you want when you feel life. What you serve life, what you need life. Now yes, what you want when you need life. What you serve life, what you need life. What? Serve. Serve it in the floor like this. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. What? Ow, swipe, swipe it. Yes, bitch. Serve it, yeah. Ow. Like this, just serve it like this. What? What? Yeah. Oh. what you need like yes, bitch. What will you give like what? Would you serve like what? Whoop, whoop, bam! Like this, serve like this, like yeah. What? Meow, 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 like this shit. Tragic, tragic, pushing attack. Calling it a rest with a hole in your back. But it's not breathing up, what you gonna do? 911 like a bitch come through. Man's got warm and vibrant, storming, Trojan slogan. Looking like what? You ain't the bull. Baby, what shit? She got a heart attack cause she's a bad bitch. She's that what? Yeah, she's that what? Yeah, she's that bad bitch. Bad bitch. What? What you like? What you like? What you like? What you breathe? What? What you like when you serve on the phone like that? Yeah, bitch. What? Yeah, what? Yeah, oh! Ow, ow! Giddy, yes, bitch. Serving the floor like that, bitch. What? Yes, a serve. What? Yeah, bitch. What? Oh, let's go. When you go get fem, just to get your 10. You're the gram to the crap. I want you to stop. Sharan! Burn! Yes, what, yeah, serve like this. Meow, what, bitch? Oh! Strike that old bitch, yeah, boom! Let's go. Bitch, yeah, what you want it, yeah, what you need it, yeah, how much you like it, yeah, do you see it, yeah, how much you want what, yeah, how much you need what, yeah, either be me in a hundred and a female him, I'll listen to me in a hundred and a female him, oh, this is what I want to say.
Thank you. And so, again, the initial goal for that work was always to try to, there were several things that I was thinking about, but one thing that was at the core was sort of to turn, what the dancers were doing physically into something tangible and sort of challenge the ephemeral nature of performance work, and also ways in which that work can be documented. And so for me, those prints, in a way, they can be seen as artworks themselves, but they can be seen as documentation, as scores. For me, they function in a lot of different ways. And more recently, they now function as really the preliminary drawings for sculptures from those performances. And so this is a rendering of a piece that's in production now, and that is an actual three-dimensional sculpture of the data that was captured during the live performance. And so it's one-to-one of the performance. So the dancers, they dance in a 10 by 10 square on the floor. And so the movement, based on the XY coordinates of, let's say, their hand, their hips, their foot, it's, creating a continuous line following that part of the body. And that line is about 3/8 of an inch in diameter, but it's also scalable. And so each sculpture from those performances will be like a physical tracing of that particular work. And I would strongly suggest that if you can, because it is free and open to the public, that you come and see it live next Saturday. So I'll end the talk with some footage of the previous parade in Miami. Oop, nope. There we go. Thank you. Unless we have more questions or not. We good?